Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the challenges of communication. Communication in general, not even talking about authentic communication in your voice, and how that is often a very critical and difficult echo of sexual trauma. I'm going to explain exactly why that is, where the origin may have been, how that pattern can show up in your life, share a little bit of my own experience when I actually became mute at times during intimacy or following intimacy, and then share with you some distinct ways that you can actually stimulate and activate your authentic voice, which will, as a natural byproduct, actually support your sacred sexuality and your ability to access the healthy aspect of your sexual energy. Ian Hazeki Mama G here. Welcome back. I am a sacred sexuality and a feminine sovereignty mentor, also known as the goddess activator, co-creator of Fiercely Fulfilled Feminine, where I empower twin flames to alchemize sexual trauma into embodied power with my sacred sexuality reclamation method so that they can experience true intimacy, lasting fulfillment, and radiant feminine sovereignty. Now, before we continue, let me share very quickly a wonderful opportunity for you to show up and be witnessed in a sacred way where someone holds space for you so that you can start to feel comfortable with your authentic communication. It's a complimentary 30-minute body reconnect session. That link is in the description. Grab that and schedule that today if you desire significant accelerated transformation on your path. There's also a free monthly healing circle. Again, that link is in the description. However, if you desire something even to go even deeper, to have even more dramatic, quick results, I would highly suggest that you invest in a 1 hour active assistant session that allows us to go a little bit deeper. And here's the deal. Whenever you invest in anything, you enter a specific resonant, energetic, vibratory field that recognizes that investment in yourself and that commitment to yourself. So there is an energetic aspect to it. And money, by the way, is a masculine energy. And when you can embrace it and appreciate it, it will give you those accelerated results. I can personally attest. So let's get right to it. Let's get right to it. Okay, so sexual trauma, communication challenges. How do you go about activating your authentic voice? Well, I'm going to start with, well, first of all, why you may be experiencing those challenges so that I can enlighten you a little bit, give you a little bit of insight, a little bit of aha, and that might be enough to help you to spontaneously release whatever it is, or at least have you be more conscious awareness of why you've had this pattern, why you continue to be triggered in certain ways with certain people, especially within intimacy, if this is you, and how you can go about disrupting these distorted patterns, which, of course, as you know, are related to trapped emotional imprints, subconscious programming. It's about restabilizing the nervous system. It's all of it, okay? I did another video recently, that triadic identity. And so I'm going to link that in the description as well, because you kind of need the mind, body, and the spirit in order to open into that energy, identity, frequency, frequency identity, that new frequency identity where you are actually sharing more of your authentic voice more often. Okay, so let's get to it. First of all, sexual trauma. Okay, if you've listened to me at all, you know that sexual energy is the creative current, the creative force of the universe. Sex is God, God is sex, God is one and the same. It is everything. It is creation. It is expansion. It is elevation. It is, I already said expansion. I think it's worth repeating. It is all of it. Okay. And so it's about opening up to that expansive reality. And you need your life force energy to do that. And your sexual energy is directly connected to your life force energy. So whether you're overexpressed at this point or repressed with regard to your sexual energy, a problem, because it means that your sacral chakra is not balanced. It means that you are not properly curating, cultivating that life force energy. And without life force energy, you're not going to be able to communicate authentically. You're not going to be able to interact and connect in the way that you want. You're not going to be able to draw in, magnetize, allow money, love, abundance, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer to express itself through you. So let's get back to it. Sexual trauma. Especially, let's start like sexual trauma can happen at a lot of different ages. And whether it's sexual assault when you were older or it was childhood sexual abuse, childhood sexual assault, because that's happened with people I know as well, is you, there is going to be a dysregulation of the nervous system. There's going to be likely a disconnect or disassociation from the body in order to protect oneself. So it's about survival, it's about protection. So there's all kinds of energetic walls of protection that can look a lot of different ways. Okay. And there's also kind of just suppressing and locking down the painful emotions connected to an event that created some disturbing thoughts or feelings. And then that's when it became trauma. Because when it happened to you, you did not have somebody there to, first of all, prevent it, to protect you. And then you did not have somebody there to help you to fully process whatever might have happened in the first place. Okay. So clearly, if it happened, you were there either alone or you were there with others who were not there to protect you. So the message that you got was that number one, especially as a child or even as an adult, the world is not a safe place. This is what happens. Okay. I can't express my full feminine nature because if I do, I could be hurt. I could be harmed. Even worse, I could be killed. Okay. Let alone speak up, speak my truth, communicate my needs. You see, so as a child, the message, let's look at an example for like childhood sexual abuse, abuse by a caregiver. So what likely the message that you received, what you learned, the programming and conditioning told you that you are not safe for one, to speak up, to communicate your needs. It was not safe to say, hey, I need this or this is happening, because whether it was spoken or not, you likely got the message that you've got to keep this a secret. You cannot say anything to anybody because if you do, there's going to be a big problem. Either you will be hurt, you or even worse, you could be shamed, you will be rejected, you won't be belonged. You know, you're a naughty little child for what's happening. You're to blame. Even, you know, because as a child, you just don't get it. It's very confusing. You don't understand how somebody who's supposed to love you is actually hurting you and harming you and then expecting you to maintain all of that in secrecy, because if you don't, you could be further harmed. So you see why it's so easy to develop these challenges around communication, because that's essentially how you've been conditioned through the trauma. And that trauma translates in all areas of your life, unfortunately, initially, and at least until it starts to become healed. And it includes intimacy. It includes intimacy with the people you believe love you the most. You've kind of been trained or conditioned to believe, oh my goodness, I can't be too vulnerable. I can't get too close. I can't ask for what I truly desire. I can't express my pleasure, God forbid, because even though consciously you feel safe, your body doesn't. See, that the trauma is stored in the body. The body, there's a book, the body keeps score. The body says, hold up, wait a minute. We haven't processed this yet. You're getting intimate with somebody. There's some extra sexual energy being exchanged. This is dangerous. You cannot talk. You cannot express yourself. You need to keep this secret. And you should be ashamed that you're having this exchange right now. Imagine that. So it's shame, fear, guilt, all of it all wrapped in one. Okay. And this is really, really important. I can't emphasize this enough. And I know I've done a video on this before, yet I'm just coming from a completely different energy. This was 2 years ago. And I feel like this is really important to reemphasize, because everybody talks about your authentic voice, communicating your needs. That's what a queen does. That's what somebody in the sovereignty does. And yet, because of the trauma, there is that deep-seated conditioning that needs to be unleashed. Along with that is deep pain, sadness, grief, mental anguish, all of it. The sadness that someone who's supposed to love you would treat you in this way. You see, a parent or a caregiver is actually meant to be a microcosm of the great God, goddess of the universe, the great divine mother, the great divine father. And when you are not nurtured in the way that you need, you get a very distorted view of reality and the truth of who you really are, which is a divine being and a perfect divine creation of the great God goddess. Source, God, source, goddess, course, source. To me, it's one and the same. That's the conditioning. That's the message that you get. It is not safe. Okay. What often happens, and this is, the patterning come in is it'll show up in all the different ways in your life. It'll show up when you want to ask for that promotion. It'll show up when you want to go for a job, but you're afraid to. It'll show up when maybe you want to ask somebody else, or maybe you just want to communicate your true feelings to somebody and you don't. You don't fully express them because of the fear of that deep, deep conditioning. Oh my gosh, I could be hurt, like physically hurt, or just simply rejected. Because here's the other piece. If somehow you get the message, oh my God, if I tell somebody about this, what if they don't believe me? Or then I'm going to be rejected by the person who is abusing me because maybe they're a caregiver. Like it's a very tricky situation because especially if you were abused by a caregiver, that's the same person that you depended on for your shelter, your clothing, and your safety. So it becomes completely distorted. So it's kind of a push-pull energy. Does that sound familiar, especially if in your twin flame journey? Push-pull energy. It's all energetics. I got to pull back. I got to retreat. Or I got to push in because I'm anxious or I don't trust this. So I'm going to go in a little bit harder than what's typical when somebody's in a healthy, balanced, healed state. So there's that aspect of the push-pull energy as well. So push-pull is, yes, imbalance. It's imbalance due to unhealed grief, unhealed trauma. You see, to me, unhealed trauma is directly connected to grief. It's got to come through the heart first. If you cannot breathe fully, you're not going to be able to speak fully and authentically. It's all connected. And I'm going to talk about the connection between especially the throat chakra and the sacral chakra because they share harmonics. Like I said, I'm going to get to that. So, okay, so let's look at patterning. Now you show up as somebody in a relationship, an intimate relationship. You know what you like, but you feel funny communicating it because, like I said, I've already mentioned why that might be. You might not express yourself. I mean, you are meant to express absolute pleasure, whether you're eating a decadent, moist brownie or you're having the most orgasmic sex. You are meant to express yourself. Your voice is powerful. Before there was light, there was sound. Before there was light, there was sound. First, there was the word. It is sound. And sound can be very, very healing, especially your own sound current that you generate because you have your own torus field. So if you're mute and you're not expressive and you're not communicating your needs, you actually diminish your ability to heal yourself, to empower yourself, and basically to enjoy life in the way that you're meant to enjoy it. I know for me, there were times early on when I would experience so much pain and so much hurt that with my most intimate partners, I was completely mute. I would go completely mute. And it's not that I didn't want to talk. It's not that I didn't want to communicate. I actually felt bad that it was like I was paralyzed. It was like I entered this state of paralysis. And it was so frustrating to my partners at the time. And I just didn't know what to do about it because I didn't have the information. I didn't understand what was going on. What was going on was consciously I wanted to communicate, yet my body didn't feel safe doing so. So do you see what happens there? So if this is you and you're either avoiding intimacy altogether or you are having problems communicating your needs or communicating just in general or accepting communication from your partner, this could be a very big reason why echo of sexual trauma. I'm going to get to what you can begin to do about it. okay? What you can begin to do about it. So stay with me, okay? And that pattern, like I said, continues. So this is the root cause. This is why it's been so challenging for you. It can also show up in weeks of laryngitis, bronchitis, hoarse throat, scratchy throat. It's all connected. And it's connected to what is known as the vagus nerve, which is the largest cranial nerve in the body. It goes from the stem of the brain all the way down into your pelvic area, and it literally spreads out. And it communicates with every single major organ in your body. And when you've been sexually traumatized, not only does your section center likely shut down or becomes imbalanced, but your voice as well. You come into what is known as contraction, which is the opposite of expansion. Now, even when somebody's having sex, when you're having sex with a partner, you're going to undulate. You're not going to be in constant contraction. It's going to be a wave-like motion. If you really think about it, it is a wave-like motion. It's in, it's out, it's in, it's out, it's back, it's forward. It's a dance. Constant contraction is not the way it's meant to be. And yet your body will contract. That's what anxiety is about. That's the fear. Those are the suppressed emotions. That's the pain. That's the discomfort. Okay. So we are going to get to more about the vagus nerves. I just want to see where I am right now. Okay. So here's what happens. You're not visible. You hide out. Maybe you try a new business like I did many, many times, and you just fail. First of all, there's no such failure, I believe. It's a stepping stone. You learn skills, you develop increasing conscious awareness, and you heal in the process and you transform. And I'm evidence of that. And yet you may tend to struggle in every single area of your life because remember, sexual energy is creative life force, energy of the universe, and your life force will only diminish over time unless you continue to heal that grief. And that's literally the fuel to fuel whatever it is you desire to reveal through you and express through you in your life. That's love, it's abundance, that's the friendship, that's the vibrant health, that's perpetual wealth, that's temporal, effortless ease, all of it, effortless flow, all of it, maximize intuition, is fueled by your life force energy, which is directly connected. And I'm going to say it again and again and again to your, say it with me, sexual energy. That's God. That's goddess. Okay. So I think I need to back up a little bit and share this aspect. A lot of times what happens, especially with childhood sexual abuse, is that the secret is kept for so long. And then finally, a child may become a teen or even a young adult. And this was in my situation was you finally get the courage to share what was happening and why it's been such a struggle for you. And I know I have another family member who was experiencing what I was experiencing, and she was actually the one that said something first. This was actually a close family member, but it was not our direct caregivers, okay, as far as our own sexual trauma. And when she spoke up, the reaction that she got and which reverberated back to me was anger, absolute anger, just anger, like in disbelief. And how could you even say this? What's wrong with you? You're lying. It's not true. What would make you say something like this? Could you imagine? First of all, keeping that a secret all that time, finally getting the courage to use your voice to share that because you're seeking some kind of support, because your life has been such a struggle for so long. If this resonates, drop me a heart in the comments. Just drop me a heart. I'll know what it's about. And then it's denied. So there's the denial. So what happens there is it sends you deeper into your pain because number one, the caregiver wasn't there for you in the first place. They're not there for you now, years later, still in denial, not validating you, not seeing you, not hearing you, not feeling you, not witnessing you. And that's where I talk a lot about sacred witnessing as a key aspect to healing any kind of trauma, especially sexual trauma. I'm going to explain that real quick. You see, sacred witnessing is essentially when someone is there holding space. Holding space is a basic tantra concept. You're there with somebody to listen. You don't offer advice. You're not trying to fix. You're not trying to rescue. You simply listen free of judgment. You're not there to shame, to judge, to give advice. You just hold the space with nurturing presence in a way that the Divine Mother would do so that somebody else can just be who they are, whether they're meant to share, release, cry, purge, pound their fists on the desk, whatever it might be. Holding that space and honoring with reverence and presence somebody else. Big aspect of Tantra. Tantra is just, everybody thinks it's just sex or gazing into somebody's eyes. Holding space is a big part of Tantra. So, and it's a big part of what I do. It's a big part of what I do. And it allows, because here's the thing. Let's look at nature. Let's say, I don't know, a cat grabs a mouse, right? The mouse is in the cat's mouth. The cat, it's just following its natural instincts. The mouse gets away. And once the mouse is out of danger, okay, that mouse will literally just shake and tremble vigorously for about 15 seconds. Then it stops and it goes on its way as if nothing ever happened. That's why somatic shaking is such a thing. And that's actually one thing that you can do to actually help with your communication is you're literally shaking the trauma out. That mouse and in nature prey when they get away, they are actually instinctually guided to shake vigorously to literally shake out the trauma and recalibrate the nervous system and bring it back. And because they don't have emotions and memories, and because their brains operate and their level of consciousness operates differently, they don't hold on to the pain in the way that humans do. So they go on about their way. Could you imagine a mouse ending up in a cat's mouth and then getting away and then spending the rest of their life worrying about the next cat that's going to come along? It doesn't happen in the animal kingdom, and yet it happens with humans. Okay, which is why if you've been relooping and experiencing similar patterns that are just not supporting your overall well-being, this is why. And this is why sacred witnessing is a critical aspect, like I've already mentioned, of what I do. It is the very first significant step and what I call the reclaim process within the structure and the framework of my sacred sexuality reclamation method. Reconnecting to the body, tapping in, sacred witnessing. Okay, so that's a big reason. You see, because when you were a child, nobody was there to nurture you. They weren't there to soothe you and say, hey, it's okay. Because that is what you need in order to process any circumstance or event that might have been somewhat challenging to the human mind or the human heart. And yet, if a caregiver isn't there to nurture you, to take you and hold you and say, hey, like when you're on the playground and you skin your knee, you run over maybe to your mom or your dad or a caregiver and they hold you and say, it's okay. They kiss you, boo, boo, boom. What do? You go back and you play. Because you received the nurturing presence of somebody who nurtured, soothed you, helped you to restabilize the nervous system and let you know that it was okay, that you were safe, and that the world is safe, and that you could continue to play. Okay? So this, again, what's basically happening is you're learning to play again, learning to feel safe again, learning to process the pain, and learning to recalibrate once again. So, like I said, yeah. Okay. So here's the deal. You want to be witnessed, you want to be heard, you want to be validated, you want to be seen, but your body says it's not safe for any of that. So it's a complete contradiction. Yeah, I want to be visible. I want to be seen. I want people to pay attention to me. I got all this great stuff, these skills, these talents, these gifts. Nobody's paying attention. They're not paying attention because your body says it's not safe to. That's what I learned in my journey. Okay. So I know I'm kind of just boom, boom, boom. Anyways, so what do we do about it? Okay. Well, we were talking about the voice, right? Now, you know, I'm all about sacred sexuality. There is a connection with communication in the voice, and I just shared what that is. Let me give you a little bit of geeked out background, scientific neurological information. Okay. I already mentioned the vagal nerve, longest cranial nerve in the body. When that nerve is in optimal functioning and free flow, it basically communicates between the brain and pretty much most of the body, all your major organs and glands in the body. And when it is operating in its optimal function, it's like the best Wi-Fi signal. However, when there is trapped trauma in the body and stored emotional imprints, what happens is the Wi-Fi becomes spotty, the communication becomes disconnected. And so if the brain and the body is trying to communicate and it's choppy, the body doesn't know what to do, the brain doesn't know what to do and how to respond, how to react, where to send, the signals for the body to respond in a certain way. That's when illness comes about. That's when mental anguish and challenges, anxiety and depression and organs that don't function well. That's when fertility issues come about. That's when, especially if you've experienced sexual trauma, you likely have experienced fertility issues. It may be endometriosis, it may be bad periods, it may be bad cramping, it may be some type of uterine cancer. It could be fibroids or cysts. Okay, I've had the cysts. I've had the fibroids in my breast and in my uterus. I, endometriosis, high acidic levels, lumps in the breast. Okay, you name it, I've had it. And yet look at here I am today. Here I am today. And that's the power of healing in the way that I've learned and discovered on my own journey, which I now share with you and my clients, if you choose to show up with me. Okay. So you got the increased baselines of cortisol. Vagal nerve is not functioning in the way that it needs to. And yet the vagus nerve is what oversees the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what keeps you calm. And you need to be calm in order to and be sexually aroused and enjoy an intimate sexual experience. Okay. And in order to be able to communicate your authentic voice, you need to feel calm, relaxed, confident, good to go. And what was I going to say? Yes, those organs and glands which need to be stimulated and activated to support sexual arousal need the vagus nerve to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay. In other words, you can't be in chronic stress and expect to enjoy a really relaxed, either intimate experience or just enjoy just basic conversation and sharing your truth. There's always going to be a little bit of discomfort there because of, like I mentioned, the unhealed trauma or grief. Okay, so finally, let's get to it. Basically, let's focus on the voice here. We're going to focus, because we're talking about communication challenges, we're going to come through the voice, through the power of the voice. The throat chakra and the sacral chakra share harmonics. Those are sounds within sounds, so they automatically resonate with each other, and they connect not just through sound and the sound current, and yet through the vagal toning. That's the frequency of the vagus nerve. The greater the frequency, the more high pitched the toning, the more healthy you will feel. So, believe it or not, your own voice and your own sound current has incredible power to help to heal you and to support your optimal well-being in whatever way that looks for you. So what are some ways that you can use your voice? Maybe you're not comfortable having that difficult conversation right now. That'll come later. That's okay. Okay, because that's part of it too. So first of all, sing. Just sing. You don't have to be the best singer. Sing by yourself. Sing out loud. Sing proud. Just sing. Number two, chant. Chanting is when you're using specific words or sounds that carries specific vibrational frequencies that help you to bring about favorable outcomes in your life. You can literally chant God, and there is power in that. That's why when people want clearing and protection, they say, in the name of Jesus Christ, there is power in those words. And so there's a lot of chanting. Like I know I do a lot of Kundalini yoga. Yogic traditions use a lot of chanting because they recognize the power of chanting to bring about certain experience in your life and optimal well-being. So there are a number of different chants that you can use, that you can chant. Om. I know I use like I use the from the heart, sending energy down through into the pelvic area because that opens and expands and it helps to release sexual trauma. That simple sound. And then I have the clients actually close their eyes and visualize an emerald green energy just flowing along with that sound down into the pelvic area. And I just admit, all of that being released. So that is something that can be very, very powerful. Just simple toning, simple chanting, using your voice, singing. What else? Humming. I know my mother hummed all the time when I grew up. And she still hums. And I'm like, she's just a pretty happy person for the most part. And I was like, there's something to this humming. Because again, you're just sending sound waves and sound currents throughout your body. And sound heals. Sound heals, especially when it's that kind of a sound. Humming is very soothing. Think about what you would hum to a baby, right? A lot of mothers with the newborns will hum, or they might hum or sing a lullaby because that's very soothing to a baby. And that's something that can be very soothing to you. And you can learn how to self-soothe. Okay, I know I had, let me just double check and see what else I have. I'm not going to get into the tantric breath today. If you show up with me in my paid programs, I do talk about tantric breath. Obviously, breathing. Breathing is one way of using your voice. There are many, many different types of breaths that you can use. Ocean breath is one of my favorite. It's literally where you're kind of tapping into the back of the throat to kind of stimulate and activate the back of the throat. And it actually will sound like the ocean. Your mouth, I mean, you can have your mouth open when you do it, but it's really kind of hitting the back of the throat. And I'm not going to explain how to do that right now, but there is a way to bring that breath to the back of the throat. Whistling, any kind of whistling, is actually very, very beneficial. Any kind of sound, vocal play, vocalizations like wow, whatever, anything works. So just really play with your voice, play with your sound. And the other thing is to begin to have some of those more challenging conversations or just begin to be more vulnerable as far as what you share and how much you share. So it's like practice. You're building a new muscle, a new neural pathway that says, okay, I'm safe here. So think about who you would do that with, when you would do it, what state you're in at the time, and what you're actually willing to share. What is your level of comfort? And then you begin to increase your level of comfort over time to the point where you're having the most insanely challenging conversations. I know for me, I've had very recently some very challenging conversations related to my own sexual trauma as a child. I had a conversation with the spouse of my abuser. I had a conversation with a brother, because this can show up in the echoes of the trauma can show up among siblings. So I had a conversation with the younger brother, had a conversation with an older brother, had a conversation. My most challenging one was to apologize for some of the ways that it showed up with me and the echoes of my own trauma. So, like I said, you can get there too, and it's absolutely liberating. So, this is all powerful stuff to help you to begin your activate your authentic voice and to communicate in the way that you would truly like to be able to communicate, free of worrying about what other things that might think, free of thinking about, worrying about whether others get upset or not, not worrying about, how others might respond or react, free of shame, free of pain, free of guilt, free of fear, and just owning who you are, the divine goddess that you truly are, or God, if you're here. So that's that. If you would like to begin to show up and start to experience more of the sacred witnessing that I mentioned, again, grab those links in the description. And also, if you would like to really learn how to use sacred breath, sacred movement, and sacred sound to really be able to accelerate in a profound way your own healing and transformation, and to really step into the full embodiment of your feminine essence, and to um, engage in what I call a full reclamation process of your sacred sexuality, so that life can open up for you in the most expansive way in every area of your life, then let's connect. Let's connect. I have my website there. You can set up, like I said, a free 30-minute complimentary session, and I'll give you an example of just how profound this work can be. Love you so much. And let's get that communication started. Let's make it authentic. Any questions, feel free to drop those in the comments. Of course, keep them kind, keep them pleasant. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Let's support each other. I love you so much. Peace.